Yes, structure of atom. In previous chapter or in earlier classes, previous classes, we have studied about the matter. So matter is everything that surrounds us, whether it is gas, liquid, solid. That is matter. So there are different states of matter: solid, liquid, gases, and the smallest unit of the matter is atom. Atom is said to be the fundamental building block of the matter. The atom has been derived from the Greek word atomy, which means uncuttable and undivisible. Means if you start finding out the smallest unit of any matter, so that has to be an atom. This is like if you see a building, so building is composed of floors, rooms, walls, etc. So if we talk about the smallest unit of that building is brick. Similar type of brick combined together and form a building, from wall, wall to room, room to floors, and floor to entire building. Same happened with the matter. The similar type of atoms combine together and form the matter. But this can be changed. There are some compounds which have different types of atoms. Where the chemical reactions takes place, the atoms combine together and form new compound that we have learned in previous chapters or in previous classes. For example, the basic thing is which we need to live is water, and the formula of water is H2O. So hydrogen is different atom, oxygen is different, and these two atoms combine together and form water, which has entirely different properties from their reactants. Hydrogen is a fuel, is used as fuel. I think you are familiar with this thing, that hydrogen is used as fuel in air, in spaceships, spacecraft, satellites. Oxygen is necessary for combustion, and water is the basic thing which we need to survive, to live. Okay, and simultaneously this is used to extinguish the fire. So all the three have different properties, but since they combine together and form a different type of matter. So the center of the atom is nucleus, which contains protons and neutrons. Electrons are revolving around the nucleus. This thing we have learned in ninth class, that atom consists of nucleus and electron. In nucleus, we have protons and neutrons. Positive charge is proton, neutron is of negative charge, and the electrons which surrounds that nucleus, which revolves around that nucleus, is of negative charge. The atomic theory of matter was proposed by John Dalton, a British school teacher, in 1808. Dalton's atomic theory was able to explain law of conservation of mass, law of constant proportion, and law of multiple proportion very successfully. In last chapter, in previous chapter, we have studied about all three laws: law of conservation of mass, that mass cannot be created nor destroyed; a law of constant composition, and law of multiple proportion. So this theory successfully explained all the three laws. However, it failed to explain the result of many experiments. For example, it was known that subject like glass or ebonite, when rubbed with the silk or forget electrically charged. I think we are familiar with this type of charge. When we rub glass or your embroidery, your plastic scale, even you can rub balloon with with your hairs and with any silk or fur, so it get electrically charged, and that charge is known as electrostatic force. And what is electrostatic force? Where the electrons are not movable, where the electrons are static, stationary at their position. But if you try this experiment with the metals and start rubbing the metal scale with your hairs, so if you continue rubbing it for your entire life, it will not attain any type of charge there. Why? Because metals are good conductor of heat and electricity. Once every time once you rub that scale with your hair, the electron will move from one end to another end, and the electrostatic charge be will not establish there. The atom consists subatomic particles we have studied, that is proton, neutron, and electron. So let's just begin the topic with the discovery of electron. In 1830, Michael Faraday showed that if electricity is passed through the solution of electrolyte, the chemical solution occurred at the electrode. The chemical reactions occur at the electron. What happens? Which results in the liberation and deposition of matter at electron. I think this experiment you have learned in 8th class, electroplating, and the dissociation of water molecules. What happened when we pass electricity through a electrolyte solution? Electrolyte solution is that can that can help in the movement of ions through it, that can conduct electricity, that can uh, complete your circuit. That is electrolyte. So if you pass electricity through the electrolyte, so what happened? The chemical reactions occur at electrode. The electrode start dissolving and mix into the electrolyte, which led to the liberation. Liberation means the compound that which you are take as electrolyte, it will start liberating. For example, if you boil water, so what happens? The boiling results in the formation of water vapor. And if you do this process in the cell and have two electrodes and start boiling, so what happened? The positive gas will start liberating from the negative electrode, and the negative gas start liberating from the positive electrode. Remember this thing? Electrolysis of water. That is how we used to separate the hydrogen and oxygen. Since the second experiment, deposition, is electroplating. The electrode which you want, the metal which you want to deposit on any metal, that should be placed at node. And what happened when you pass the electricity? It start dissolving and start depositing on the another electrode. That is how the electroplating done. Okay. The Faraday began to study electrical discharges partially evacuated tube known as cathode ray discharge tube. So he began the he entirely studied that the electrical charge is partially evacuated tube. Partially evacuated tube means which contains vacuum. The air is sucked out from that tube, and he performed his experiment in that particular tube. So how this thing happened? Let me just explain you. The discovery of subatomic particle. It is dissipated in figure 2.1 that a cathode ray tube is made of glass containing two thin pieces of metal called electrodes. These are the electrodes which are present at the two ends. Sealed in it, the electrical discharge through the glass could be observed only at very low pressure and very high voltage. And this electrical discharge can be seen at very low pressure and very high voltage. Because if voltage is less, movement of electron is less, and at that time you will not be able to find out which you want to find it. Okay, so for that we require high voltage. The pressure of different gases could be adjusted by evacuation of the glass tube. And this pressure, how you can adjust the pressure inside the tube? By the vacuum pump. This vacuum pump sucks the air from the tube, and that regulates the pressure. The pressure you want in that discharge tube, you can just adjust with the help of this vacuum pump. When sufficiently high voltage is applied across the electrode, the current starts flowing through a stream of particles moving in the tube from negative electrode to positive one. Now, what happened when you just supply a high voltage of current? What happened? The electrodes start working and the current start flowing from through a stream of particle from the negative electrode to the positive one. It starts from this cathode to the anode. Okay, these rays are called cathode rays or cathode ray particles, and the ray which emit out from the cathode, or you can say the negative terminal, that ray is known as the cathode ray. The flow of current from cathode to anode was further checked by making holes in the anode and coating that tube behind anode with the phosphorescent material called zinc sulfide coating. A bright spot on the coating is developed. What happened? Whenever the electrons move start, or you can say the particles start moving from the cathode to anode, they just move towards the anode and strike to that. So if you want to check this thing that this is happening there, so you can make hole in the anode electrode, and once these particles just pass through this hole and they will strike to this surface, and this is zinc sulfide coating. Whenever the particles strike to this coating, this will illuminate. You will see some light or specific type of lightning spots there, and that proves that something is there which is hitting that sheet and produce fluorescence. Okay, so this is fluorescent coating. This thing happened in the television, the old television. The television right now we are using LED and LCDs, but in the previous time people used to use the simple TV which has a monitor like look screen and the broad backside. That this is the thing which is, this is the criteria which is used inside that TV to project the picture on the screen. So, result of the experiment. The cathode ray start from the cathode and move towards the anode. The first point is, whenever you start supplying the high voltage, what happen? The cathode ray start moving from the cathode to anode plate. Okay. These rays were not visible, but their behavior could be observed with a certain kind of material called fluorescent sheet or phosphorescent sheet. You can't see the rays, you can't see the particles which are moving from cathode to anode, but you can see their effect on the fluorescent sheet. Whenever they strike with the fluorescent sheet, it produces sparkling light. In the absence of electrical or magnetic field, these rays travel in straight line. I think this thing you have learned in ninth class, that the cathode ray deviated in the electrical and magnetic field. They are affected by the electrical and magnetic field. Whenever you apply a electrical field, it will deviate towards that field. If you, whenever you apply the magnetic field, if you put magnet aside of that tube, the rays get start deviating towards the magnetic. But in the absence of electrical and magnetic field, these rays travel in a straight line. In the presence of electrical and magnetic field, the behavior of cathode rays are similar that expected from negatively charged particle, suggested that the cathode ray consists of negatively charged particles, that is electron. If you put it in the electrical and magnetic field, what happens? They will behave like a negatively charged particles, and that clearly shows that cathode ray contains negative charge, and that negative charge is electron. The characteristics of cathode do not depend upon the material of the electrode, nature of the gas present in the tube. Means the characteristics, means the negative characteristic of the cathode ray, it does not depend on the material and the gas which is present inside the tube. And the basic thing, I want to tell you one thing. The gases which we use in the that discharge tube, that cathode ray tube, are inert gases. For example, helium, argon, etc. Why? Because they do not react with these particles. If you take some other gas, for example oxygen, hydrogen, they will break their diatomic bond and form bond, accept that electron and get stabilized, and you will not be perform your experiment. So we need a special type of gas that do not react with the electrons or your particles and support to perform your experiment. That is why we used to take helium, neon, argon, krypton. These are the inert gases. I think this thing you have seen in tube lights. In tube lights, we don't have any spring or any types of tungsten wire. We only see two ends, but the rod is in, the entire rod is blank. There is no wire. But when you switch on, the entire tube light will start to become glowing. How this thing happen? This is because it contains the inert gas that help the movement of particles from the negative terminal to the positive terminal, and that called illumination. All right. Thus, we cannot conclude that electrons are the basic constituent of all the atoms. We can now we can conclude that electrons are the basic constituents of the atoms.